We are back. We're live again, Stephanie, and it looks like it's you and I to begin
Happy
this.
New Year, Zach.
So, yeah, Happy New Year. It's a wonderful year to get started with. I was lucky enough to where my son joined me from Japan, which was great. Didn't know he was in the States, and all of a sudden he's at my front door. I'm like going, well, that's odd. So, but that really was great. Hey everybody. The beginning of the year does bring up something that I'm very, very proud of, and that means that we are beginning to talk a lot about the 22-hour podcast. It's 22 hours to where we, as citizens of this wonderful nation, get a chance to talk and discuss how we can help those who have wore the colors of the United States, who have put on the 1% who has given the oath and taken that oath and are now struggling within the United States. If you are someone who offers anything to those who are struggling, if you have a story that you would like to tell, if you have a solution to people's problems, we invite you to come and join us on February 22nd, where I begin at 4 a.m. East and go until 2 a.m. East. Or for us here in the mountain range, like myself and our guest today, I begin at 2 a.m. and we go until midnight. We talk about mental issues that lead, unfortunately, to suicide. So join us this year for the 22-hour podcast where we talk about our community mission to serve our veterans. Stephanie, how are you doing?
Didn't want to unmute.
I was going to say you and that mute button are having issues right now.
Yeah, we're fighting today. I'm doing really well. I'm happy to be here. Happy it's a new year and lots of impact to be made. I know we have a great lineup of, people for Footprints Forward and leading all the way up to that 22-hour podcast, which is going to be so impactful with those that you're going to be presenting there.
We started this show May 1st of last year. So this is our second year. This is, and instead of doing what they do on, real TV shows to where it's, our season starts. No, our season starts today. This is year 2, episode 1. And we've got a wonderful story that's joining us today. A wonderful story, and she was able to stand up after a tragic loss of her son, and she's working on building something very, very special, and I'm excited for her to be able to tell her story and the lead up into Tomorrow Needs You. But Stephanie, first, why don't you tell us about yourself, please?
I'm excited for her story, but sure. My name is Stephanie Simoes. What I do is I work with nonprofit organizations and people year round to assist with fundraising through One Hope Wine. So I specialize in fundraising, gifting, private wine events, and wine delivery. When you pour a glass of wine or send a gift through One Hope, it's really a great feeling to know that that bottle of wine is making an impact for a nonprofit organization that's important to you. Yes, you get to select it. Zach and I run a monthly show highlighting smaller nonprofit organizations to help them fundraise, but most importantly, to get their mission out there to more people. So if you're not there yet, you can totally follow our monthly mission on Community Pay It Forward One Hope Fundraiser on Facebook. You can easily find that on my link tree that's just below my name. My husband and I founded New Heights Homestead also. We are traveling 580 miles with our 5 kids and our animals to build a mountaintop homestead from the ground up. Our goal is not only to have a more natural approach for our family, but to be able to support our community and nonprofits that we love through this space. So if you're curious about topics like homesteading, living, animals, non-traditional home designs like container home builds, more natural living topics, growing food, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and come on the journey with us at New Heights Homestead. Through our real estate side, we are continuing to invest in real estate with a focus on veteran housing. So we're looking to continue that mission in West Virginia as well. I've got news on that, Zach. I'm actively looking for stuff over there. But this mission that we're here for today is really important to me because the last few years working in the nonprofit space, I've learned so much about where our systems are really lacking in support. So this show is about, the resources, the education, the people who are there for those that are really needing assistance. It's so, so important. So we can help bring those number of losses in the other direction. So that's me. You'd be a little chuckle, Zach. I had my kids thinking that they were eating pork fat for dinner tonight. my homesteading funny for the day. You'll have to check out my reel, but yeah, they were totally believing it for a little while there.
Yeah, well, you know what? The way that dinner's going in this house, we've got the two kids that we're going to be taking care of for a couple weeks. They may be eating pork fat if I can't get stuff put together. So your joke might become their reality. And I think that they're going to be like going, wait a minute, we get here to Colorado. These people are supposed to be taking care of us and he feeds us this. I'm A shape, not in shape. So, that's, but you can find out everything that you need to know about Stephanie by going to her link tree, which is right there on your screen. Go and find out more about the homestead, about our current campaign, which is a wonderful campaign that has joined the Community Pay It Forward program, which is so exciting. In the human contract, so much more that you can find out. And you can go to where you can watch the reels and see more about it right there on Stephanie's link tree. So, Stephanie, I talk about John Vogels very, very often with Martyred Angels because John lost his son. And I often tell you how important he is to me because I'm not sure if I would be able to do what he does. Our guest is the same way.
I still remember his story and it gives me chills still. I think I only had that interaction with him that one time with you, and that his story still sticks out in my mind like it was yesterday. I think these two people, are doing something in a positive way and taking that experience and spinning it in a different way. And that's why I'm really excited to dive in and kind of hear her retell her story. I got bits and pieces of it, but it takes a strong person to be doing what she's doing.
Well, let's go on ahead and bring her on. This is Ashley Ellis, the founder of Tomorrow Needs You. How are you doing, Ashley?
Good.
And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Ashley, your story is amazing because of your strength. Your story is amazing because of what you're willing to do. But your story is one that nobody wants to have to go through. Can you tell us a little bit about you and about Eli?
I don't mean to belittle myself, but I feel like, I don't have a whole lot to tell you about me. I went to school for psychology, but I haven't ever used it. I originally was going to go into school counseling, and then by the time I got out of college, I was looking at going, the schools don't have any control. The parents don't have any accountability. I don't think I want to be a school counselor. So I didn't ever pursue that. But I've done a lot of, things over the years with youth in different capacities and whatever. I've been divorced for almost 18 years. So I raised my kids by myself for the most part. And, that comes with its own challenges. And Eli is my firstborn. And I have a daughter, Gabrielle, who just turned 21. Eli was like go from the very get-go. Like, that child had one speed, and it was full throttle. I remember trying to feed him when he was little, and he was so busy that he didn't want to hold still long enough to eat. He'd be like starving, but like pushing away from me at the same time. And that's just kind of how he always was, and super intelligent. Like, we never had him tested, but I would guess genius. Like, just super intelligent and absorbed everything he ever learned and never forgot anything. And I think sometimes that brain that goes all the time is kind of maybe what led us to where we are. August 14th of 2020, I lost him to suicide.
I agree with you. I think a lot of times when a brain never stops, it doesn't, well, obviously it just doesn't know when to shut down, and it doesn't know what to, it's always trying to come up with reasons and with solutions. And so, did Eli have any hobbies or anything like that helped him sometimes?
He was always up to something. Sorry, my nose itches. One of the ways that he ended up being such a mentor, we call the group of kids that his influence reached the Lost Boys. And a lot of that started because we lived near City Park, which also has a BMX bike park that the kids have built from the ground up. And he was always over there building jumps and perfecting crazy, stunts and wrecking and all that comes with that. And so he did that, and he was always rebuilding his bicycle to make it better. And like I said, he mentored all those kids. I always came home and there was bikes upside down in the driveway. And the kids were mechanicking on them and whatnot. And he was a sharpshooter in 4-H. Both my kids made state, and both of them actually made nationals for shooting sports. Eli always kind of wanted to go into the military. That was his dream. But when he was in high school, he got in a collision with a car on his bicycle, and he broke both legs. He shattered his right femur and broke his left tibia, I think. But so he couldn't join the military like he'd always dreamed of. But and some of the Lost Boys think that contributed to where things maybe went wrong with him. It's just that he wasn't living the life he wanted to. And he loved fly fishing, actually any kind of fishing. Listening to music, sitting around the fire. So he had a lot of interests.
Just to let people know, you and you can tell by Eli's story, you can tell that you guys are in Colorado, because those are all, that is Colorado, the epitome of life in Colorado. The fly fishing, sitting around campfires, doing all that other stuff. That and
snowboarding, yes.
Yeah, snowboard. There are those BMX bike ramps and skateboard ramps and everywhere, every 10 feet in here in northern Colorado. Ashley, if you can you tell us Eli's lost story? Tell us what happened.
I can tell you what I know. Okay. Because I don't really know what happened. I told you the last time we spoke, he had decided to move to Oklahoma and do the oil field.
Mhm.
My dad and my brother were both in the oil field, and my dad's got cousins in Oklahoma in the oil field. And Eli was just young and at that age where fast money sounded like the thing to do. So he moved to Oklahoma to work in the oil field, and he'd send me these crazy videos that would scare the life out of me. I'd be like, don't send your mom those videos. Don't. He was standing on the top of the derrick with doing a selfie with a tornado in the background. I'm like, yeah, don't send your mom those pictures. I don't need to know. I don't need to know that. And he just thought it was the coolest thing ever, of course, So, and he would send me videos of him, connecting pipe, like he just everything he did, he had to do to the nth degree. Like he had to be the fastest person, he had to be the best at everything. And so anyway, I didn't get to see him much, but he sent us a lot of videos while he was there. And then when COVID happened, the oil field literally just like folded up. They parked all the rigs in the yard. It was costing more money to run the rigs than they were making for selling oil. So they literally just stacked all the rigs in the yard, and they were like, okay, well, we'll pick up another day. And so he had a company vehicle. And so that meant he had no vehicle, no income. And he lived outside of town. So it wasn't like he could just walk a couple blocks to get groceries or whatever. So I had just called him and said, look, I know you're an adult, but, I'm still your mom, and I would feel better if you came home. I'll come get you if it's your decision, but if you give me the word, I'll just come get you. So he thought about it for a little while, and a couple days later, he called me back, and he goes, yeah. He goes, there's nothing for me to do here right now anyway, so come get me. So I took a road trip and went and got him, and I guess it was April of 2020 that we got home, and we pulled in the driveway, and there was probably at least 12 kids waiting for us here. They were so excited that he was coming home. And so we unloaded his stuff, and the first little while he was back here because he had turned 21, and so he was the first one among their friend group that was old enough to go buy beer. So it was just a party. And and he had built a fire pit in shop class or welding class, I guess, up at the high school. And so there was a party at my house like every night. All they did was burn fires and drink beer and and play games online. Arc was his big game, but there'd be 5 game systems and 5 boys set up in my house playing online with each other, but in the same room, and they were too much. I was like, you guys are out of control. But so anyway, he seemed, I knew it was kind of a blow to your ego as a young man to be back at mom's house,
Yeah.
but I went out of my way to say, look, you're an adult. As long as you're respectful of house rules, you do you. I'm not going to try to parent you. I'm not going to try to restrict things. If you have a party in the backyard and the police get called, not on me. You handle it, but I don't care what, within reason, as long as you're respectful and you clean up after you do you. And so it seemed to me like he was doing all right, and he had just gotten a job. He was working building fence with this gentleman that my dad knew, which I don't know that my dad even knew that Eli was talking to him about working for him, but it's just the small town. He probably knew that was my dad's grandson, but he hired him, and he would come in I used to own an insurance agency, and he would come in and he would just brag about what a good worker Eli was and how he really enjoyed him, and he had a great sense of humor. And all the people that hired him, he was great at talking to people, and everybody loved him and whatever. So, and Eli came home telling us wild stories about building fence, and I would never have suspected a single thing was out of place. he was saving money to buy a vehicle. He was planning to go visit his girlfriend in Nebraska. And that night, it was a typical Friday evening. He had had a few beers at work with his boss, and he came home, and all the kids were gathered at the park. They gather on the kind of the north end of the park with all their bikes and whatever, but all the kids, even the kids that don't ride, kind of gathered there in the summertime. And there was probably 20, 25 kids or something over there. And so anyway, they all pooled their money together, and Eli went and bought beer. And I had gone to run an errand or something, so I drove over there, which it's literally in my backyard, City Park is. But I drove over to where they were and said, I'm going to the store or whatever. And he had come bouncing over. Mom, I learned how to do this new cast, a new fly cast for fly fishing or whatever. And I was like, which I don't know how to fly fish, but I said, oh, you'll have to show me that later. And he's like, yeah. So anyway, he and his friend Maya like linked arm in arm and were being super goofy and like skipped back to the other group. And so I went and did whatever I did and came home and pulled in the driveway, and I could see that, there was more kids over there. There's probably 30 or 40 kids over there. I don't know for sure. But the music was getting louder, and they were having a good time, and they were dancing on top of the picnic tables. And so I just came in the house, and I had started to watch something on TV or something, and then I got a phone call. So I was on my phone, and I don't really know what happened. Some of the kids said they saw a definite shift in Eli's demeanor or whatever. Like he just there was definitely something changed, but nobody knew. And so we kind of assumed that maybe it was something on his phone, because there wasn't an altercation that anyone witnessed, But his mood shifted, and so he said, I'm going to go home and get online and play online if anyone wants to, meet me on there or whatever. So, literally went from dancing on the tables to I'm going to go home now. So he started across the way, and my daughter yelled at him because he had his jeans on, and he got hot. So he had taken his jeans off, and he had shorts on underneath. Well, he had we're an open carry state, and he had a holster on his pants. And Gabby said to him, don't forget your gun. And so he picked it up, and they were walking over this way, and he goes, dang it, I forgot my phone. And so one of the boys said, I'll go grab it because I forgot something else too. So the one kid ran back to get Eli's phone and whatever he forgot. And then the other 2 or 3 kids kind of waited. There's a fence between the parking lot and the alley behind our house. And so they kind of waited there for him to catch back up. And so Eli proceeded by himself home, which I often think to myself, was that small window of opportunity, because if there would have been someone with him, I don't think he would have done what he did. But so he walked in the back door past me and went in his room and pulled the trigger. And I actually didn't hear the gunshot. I don't know how I didn't hear it, but I didn't. And then, but the other kids had caught up, and when they got to his room, then, there was a commotion and yelling. And I'll never forget, one of the boys screamed, Mom, Eli has blood coming out of his ears. Well, my brain didn't immediately go to suicide. I just thought, because he's been hit by a car, and I always say he had 9 lives, but I just figured he hit his head on something when they were over there goofing around or whatever. So I did up my phone. I just kind of said, hang on. I threw my phone. So I went to his room, and it's like everything just kind of goes hazy. I could see him on the floor, and I could see blood, but I still hadn't put it all together. And then I saw his gun, and then it was just like, it just took my breath. Like I just fell to my knees, and I said, sweet Jesus, why, and most of the rest of that night is a blur, but I just never ever saw it coming, so I don't know what
Ashley,
happened, honestly.
I think the one thing about your story that is um, very apparent is there's a lot of people who say that there are warning signs, and I think the one thing that you've talked about and made very abundantly clear is that there were no warning signs to this. Um, so that theory that there's always a warning sign, I think that this is proof that there's not. Did he have any problems when he drank? And I don't want to imply that he was drinking too much or he was doing anything like that. This is just a general question. But did he ever have that problem where when he got to a certain amount, he started to get a little dark, or was it just, or was there always an even keel to him when he was drinking?
I never saw that side, but after the fact, some of his friends told me about a couple of other times that he drank, and he did drink too much that night. The autopsy report showed that he had had a lot to drink. There weren't any other drugs in the system, but he had had a lot to drink. And I think it was just a split-second decision that he couldn't take back, honestly. I think he had some demons that he hid from us. I think he was very good at making people think that everything was fine, when maybe there were some issues he was dealing with, but he never let on.
What steps have you had to take with your daughter? Because I know that you mentioned your daughter as the one who she felt guilty because she reminded him about his gun. What steps have you had to take for her and to reassure her this isn't your fault? This isn't on you.
Honestly, I I pray for her a lot. She doesn't talk to me about it. I only know that because of another kid that was at the park. She didn't tell me that. After I heard about it, though, I did, because we have this ongoing agreement that I don't have to be her person and she doesn't have to talk to me about it, but she has to talk to somebody about it, because she also refuses to do counseling. But I did say, I know about the conversation you had with your brother, and I want you to know beyond a shadow of doubt that it's not your fault. You were being responsible. I understand how you could question that, because if he hadn't had it, he couldn't have done it. But he made this decision. This is his fault and his fault only. And she and I just have this agreement that she can just come in my room if she's having an anxiety attack or having a bad day or whatever. We don't have to talk. She just comes in and sits with me, and that's what we do. And she doesn't talk to me. So, and I tell her, I'm like, it takes everything in me to not wrap you in bubble wrap and put you in a room and not let you out in the world because of everything that's happened. Because I lost a baby boy between the two of them previously. And so then losing Eli, I just feel like, she's all I have left. And I told her, I said, I try really hard not to put that on you, but you have to be aware that I have that I deal with. And so if I get overprotective of you or whatever, that's why, and I'll try not to. But so as much as I hate it, I don't really even know where she's at because we don't talk about it. I'm just here for her physically.
Stephanie?
I was actually going to take the question in a little bit of a different direction and just ask, if he had any signs of like depression or anything else, and nothing to do with like the situation that day, but
Mm-hmm.
if there were any other things that maybe he might have been battling earlier in life before all of this.
Well, he had ADHD. He did not like the way the meds made him feel, so he didn't like taking them. His dad and I were divorced when he was in 2nd grade, and it was really hard on him. And in spite of the reality, he thought his dad walked on water, and so I went out of my way to not take that away from him. Like, that's your dad, and you guys have to have a relationship. And but his dad didn't offer the same respect, and so there was a lot of bad mouthing me at his dad's house, and kind of a lot of pressure from his dad on different things. Like when he made it to nationals, there was a small scholarship involved that would help him with expenses as far as hotel and stuff when we went. And his dad told him that if he wanted him there, he had to pay for him to go because he couldn't afford to. And just some stuff that I didn't think was right, that I felt like put a lot of pressure on him, and I mean, just normal teenage stuff, When he first got home from Oklahoma, I think he was a little bit depressed because he didn't have a job and he didn't kind of had that financial freedom he was used to having. And he bought himself a set of silverware, like one set, like one fork, one knife, and one spoon that he used all the time because he didn't want to have to do dishes per se. So that was his way of dealing with it. He always just used the same thing. But so he had this rainbow colored spoon that he would sit in his room and he would watch Grey's Anatomy and eat ice cream out of the pint, And so my daughter said, "Are you having your quarter life crisis or whatever?" And so we used to joke about that he was having his quarter life crisis. But I mean, he laughed about it. And, I mean, there were little things, but nothing that would lead me to think that he was ever in that spot. So.
One of the things that we do that we've heard before is, your son was talking about how he was planning on going to see his girlfriend or going, were there any apparent problems there that you heard of or?
Mm-mm. No, in fact, I was really close with Grace, and especially in the weeks afterward, because her mom wouldn't let her come out and wouldn't let her come to the funeral, and there was a lot of other drama. But he had been kind of quiet to her that day. But she said, when he was at work and especially on hanging out with his friends, that she might not hear from him till later. So she didn't think that was weird, but she hadn't even heard from him. So I know they weren't fighting or anything. Some of the kids think that there was a girl here at the park that was flirting with him, and maybe something with that set him off or something, but nobody knows for sure. It wasn't an obvious thing.
I know you mentioned that accident too, and I can kind of took me back to an accident that I was a passenger in a really bad accident when I was a teenager that kind of shifted a lot of things for me. And I think that sometimes that can really affect your mental state too. Were there like residual things from that accident that may have affected him also?
I don't know if he had any pain from it or anything like that. He had a really high pain threshold anyway, and he didn't complain about stuff like that, but you could feel the bolts under the skin in his ankle and stuff. And like I said, he was not able to go into the military because of that. And so it kind of changed the trajectory of how he saw his life playing out, I guess. And
He
some
was
of the
successful. He had such a great job going for him at that time too. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue, please.
Yeah. I mean, and this child could weld and he could run a backhoe. And I mean, he just.
And that's awesome. A lot of kids don't get that.
You know, he had his mechanic certificate, and that's how he started out in the oil field. Actually, was in Wyoming. He was mechanicking on all the trucks, but then he got the itch to roughneck. But so, I don't know.
Well, Ashley, you have taken this very, very tragic moment in your personal life, and you've started an organization. You've actually started two organizations, but one of them called Tomorrow Needs You. You have your YouTube channel, and you've recorded a 2-minute video I would like to share with people. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the video that can be found on Ashley's YouTube channel, and I ask everybody go and check it out. And we're going to get more into Tomorrow Needs You as soon as we're done with this video. But please, it's 2 minutes long. If you got 2 minutes, just stick around and watch this with us. If I can press play, of course.
Hi, my name is Ashley, and this is my first video. I don't have any of the special lighting, special equipment, camera, any of that. And I've never done videos, so I'm sure the quality will be terrible. But I felt compelled today to make my first video. I'm starting a YouTube channel and a Facebook group called Tomorrow Needs You. It's in honor of my son, Eli J. Ellis. Unfortunately, he chose to take his own life. And I just want to create an open dialogue and awareness about what a crisis our country is in with mental health and the astronomical numbers of suicides that are happening, and just a safe place for people who have been affected by this to talk and to support each other. And so anyway, someday I dream to create a space for that, the Lost Boys Ranch. So more to come. I just wanted to get the first video out of the way. So anyway, love and light to everyone who sees this video.
Sorry about that.
I was like, maybe Zach froze.
No, I had to run and I had to run and let my dogs in. They were freezing.
Oh.
So sorry about that. But was that the park?
Yeah, that's the bike park that I was talking about. Yeah. It's called Sherwood. The boys call it's been Sherwood since my brother was younger. Everybody, I mean, it's been here for a while,
So again, I do apologize about that. You know, I got one dog out there barking a little bit, and apparently she was cold. Tell us about your plans with Tomorrow Needs You.
Tomorrow Needs You is just kind of the umbrella that I want, over my. I would like to eventually reach more people to be able to be a grief coach for them. Ideally, someday, if I could make a living at it, that would be good. So I don't have to spend 8 hours a day on the concrete floor doing what I'm doing right now. But it basically just oversees that aspect of it, like the suicide awareness, grief healing, the concept that you can heal from grief, that you don't have to live in the thick of it forevermore. Because I know somebody presenting that message while I was in the thick of it was what gave me hope that it wouldn't always be that bad. So.
What are you, and I know that you're in the very, very beginning stages of this, but you do have a couple things that are out there for people to go and check out. Like, you go to Tomorrow Needs You on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. You can go and check all that stuff out. Or once again, you can find the information, the video that I intended for you to see. The video I intended for you to see, you can see at Ashley's YouTube channel, which is Ashley Ellis on YouTube. At Tomorrow Needs You is where you can find that. You can always send Ashley an email at tomorrowneedsyou98@gmail.com. Ashley, what are some of the things that you need in order to get started?
I guess initially just kind of networking. People have to know I'm available to be able to contact me. I did reserve like a domain for a website so that I could have, links to all that from one place. But I don't really know what I'm doing. I go to YouTube University for a lot of things, but I haven't done web page building yet. So eventually I hope to, create a cohesive website that can take you to all the different, and a lot of what we do, I try to be really uplifting. I'm also really real. Like, I'm not the person that's going to put a smiley face on and pretend everything's fine when it's not. I feel like you have to be open and honest about the grief process. And like my mom's generation did the June Cleaver, everything's fine face, and I'm like, I'm not about that. But we do, and I think some of the TikTok and stuff is, and I share on all of them, but that's kind of where I've been trying to focus on. We do hashtag shenanigans for Eli, because he was all about crazy things and pranking people, and so we try to just do fun, silly things that he would do to keep his memory alive. And so that's the message I try to put out there is, I'm trying to shine his light so he's not forgotten. And in the meantime, help other people be able to get to that space.
What's the first thing that you tell to a parent who's reached out to you? What's the first thing that you tell them?
Breathe.
Do you feel like you didn't do that?
Oh, you forget to breathe. You hold your breath a lot. And, it feels like the whole way the world is sitting right here. And even when you try to breathe, it's hard to get a full breath in. And your fight or flight mode is on go all the time. And so if you make yourself consciously slow down and do slow breaths, it helps your autoimmune or whatever whatever those reflexes are, but it helps you calm your system. And I don't know how many times still somebody can say, take a breath, and I'll be like, oh yeah, so breathe, self-care. You're not alone. There's no right or wrong way to grieve.
Stephanie?
So one thought that kind of came to mind is grief comes in kind of different forms, different situations. Are you kind of open to working with anyone, any age that kind of comes to you? Or is there a specific niche that you're trying to focus on?
I feel like the whole dying by suicide has become my niche just because I feel like it's still, there's such a stigma attached to it. And so, and I feel like, that's where my area of expertise is, unfortunately. But because I am familiar with infant child loss, like my other son Jake was a stillborn, so I feel like I can speak to that as well. And I'm not opposed to talking to anybody about anything, because there's so many, like you were saying. I mean, I have a coworker whose house burned down right before Christmas. Well, that's grief. I mean, your divorce is grief, losing a job is grief. I mean, there's a lot of forms of grief, and I'm open to talk to anyone. Anyone who I can help, I'm happy to help. But I do feel like, I probably have more insight as far as the whole suicide situation. And
Okay,
I've dealt with all of the Lost Boys since losing Eli, and said, the numbers are astronomically higher for people who have lost somebody that way, and Eli would not want that. And so I met with them monthly for at least 6 months, like, keep the conversation open, don't suffer alone.
How and I want to get back to the question I was going to ask you, but you brought up the Lost Boys. How are they taking it? How are they? And I hate to juvenile this, but how are they accepting this? How are they turning this terrible, terrible tragedy into a life lesson at their young age?
I think that answer is different for every one of them. And a couple of them have lived with me since losing Eli, and because they weren't doing well at all at different points. And some of them have kind of stepped up to be that kind of leader, mentor that Eli was. They kind of feel like it's their job now. And that's kind of the focus. One of them has gone off the deep end with aquariums. Like, he has his own business now, and that all started because I gave him Eli's aquariums after he passed away, because they kind of shared that, but Trapper's taken it way farther than, I shouldn't have said his name, but way farther than Eli ever even did. In fact, Eli's entire room is wall-to-wall aquariums now, which I think is fitting. That was another hobby of his. But some of them I still really worry about. Some of them are not handling it well. And some of them have even admitted they're not handling it well, and that they stay drunk, or they stay high, or they do destructive things to not deal with it.
I did mention to you that John has told me before that with the loss of Bladen, he walks around with what is akin to the worst case of heartburn every day. What is your feeling? Like, what is the one thing that you feel every day when it comes to the loss? And I ask this question because I really want kids to understand what parents do go through.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's funny that you should say that, even because some of the boys, not all of the boys are boys, but they're the Lost Boys. some of them have actually said, especially after losing Eli, that they had thought about joining him, in their own words. And that one of them specifically said to me, I could do that to my friends. I could do that to my parents. I couldn't do that to you. So they've seen firsthand what it does. There's not a day, probably will never be a day, that I don't think to myself, what did I miss? What could I have done? I parent a lot of kids that I call them my bonus kids. And I actually have bonus grandbabies now. But somebody will say, you're such a good mom. And after having lost a child to suicide, I can't accept that compliment, because I'm like, if I was a good mom, he would still be here.
I think that those kids are right, because if they're still sticking around and they're still finding strength in you, I think that proves your strength as a mom. And again, I give you all the credit in the world, because it takes a tough person to sit and talk about what you're talking about right now. It takes someone a hell of a lot stronger than a lot of people can be. So I'm going to ask you not to take that away from yourself, because I think you are a really good mom and you need to stay strong for everyone. And I think that there's so much value in what you went through. Do you ever say to yourself, Eli, thank you for what you have given me when it comes to this family, this extended family, because you guys have become an extended family?
I guess I haven't really thought of it that way. I mean, I am grateful for them, because I don't think I would have made it through this without them, and vice versa, probably. I'm still deep enough in the trenches that I always say, because they always say, everything happens for a reason and something good comes from, and I guess to some extent I believe that, but I still am in a place where I think there may be some beautiful benefits. Like, I've met some incredible people on this journey, people who've gone through similar situations, but I always say the price is too high.
Stephanie, did you have anything else?
Well, I think you're incredible. I mean, even what you're doing for your daughter, I know she may not be accepting it in the way that maybe you would have thought, but just hearing what you're doing for her is amazing. These kids are flocking to you as the mother figure, really. And the fact that you're like an open home sanctuary to them is just, that's incredible. Kids could get into a lot of trouble out there if they don't have that safe place and that safe person to talk to. I kind of took myself back for a second. Who did I have when I was younger? And you have to have those people that you could confide in and talk to in that way. And you're that solid ground for those kids. I know you feel the price is too high, but truly, I really think just with that, you're making such a huge impact on their lives.
I'd like to say, Ashley, one of the things that you do as as a mom and dad, one of the things that we do with our kids is we're so close to this situation that we see our kids in a light that maybe they're not always in that light. And the kids know, hey, mom and dad see me as this, even though that's not what I am. You're offering these kids the alternative, the opportunity to be real.
Yeah.
That is so important, that you offer them a chance to be who they are.
Yeah.
And I think that's so tough when it comes to it, because again, this is all brought upon by a devastating loss. And I just want you to know that as I mentioned to you before we went live, we're here for you in any way we can be.
Thank you.
And we would love to offer you the opportunity to come back whenever you have anything that you need, that you would like to come back in, if you ever have any events, or if you have anything that you would like to share. I would love to learn more and celebrate anything that the Lost Boys accomplish from this point on. It's still very, very fresh. It's still very, very new. Saying this, Ashley, it's going to be 30 years down the road, and it's still going to be fresh and new. And I understand that.
Yeah.
But I think that you're a wealth of knowledge. And I hope and I beg for you just to allow yourself to be that wealth of knowledge. And I really do see you being there for people in the best way.
Thank you.
And
All I
again,
hope you do. You know.
again, we're here for you whenever you need us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's not a problem. Hey, everybody, I would like to once again thank Ashley for joining us, Ashley Ellis, with Tomorrow Needs You. Do me a favor, go onto the Facebook, go onto the TikTok, go onto Twitter under Tomorrow Needs You. Show your support, encourage, and help. Not just her, but the kids, the families that are out there. Share this page with people who you may see as having maybe troubles or struggles. This is a good way to support each other. And that's what this is all about, is support. We want to be there for Ashley. We want to be there for the Lost Boys. We want to be there for everyone. And I think that we can be. Stephanie, this one's tough, but what did you learn today?
Ooh, I feel like I'm trying to breathe right now through this, truthfully, myself, just being a part of this conversation. But Ashley, I mean, you're so brave to come here and share. And I truly hope that we get more people connected with you, because you can help people in a way Zach and I cannot. So I hope that this reaches the people who need to see it.
Ashley, I am going to be introducing you once again. I promise I'll get it done. I'll be introducing you to John Vogels. I'm also going to introduce you to one of our partners, Mr. Z. Z is a web designer, and maybe he can help you out. And even if for right now it's just a landing page or whatever to get you started, maybe the Community Pay It Forward program can help you. We can get that landing page done, and we can get this started off. Please, again, we're going to ask you, go to all of these wonderful places. You see her email right here. Let's make sure that we're encouraging and we're keeping the good going. So, Ashley, thank you so much. Stephanie, thank you so much. Hey, everybody, until next week, my name is Zach Clayton with Footprints Forward. Please remember love somebody out there, because somebody out here loves you, and this proves that everybody needs a little bit of love. And if we can support one another, let's do that, because we're all we got. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. And hopefully next week there won't be any politically divisive interruptions.
I think